I can't hear you. Can you hear me?
Now, can you hear me?
Yes.
Okay, I neglected to put the audio on. Sorry. So welcome back, Angelica from Peru. Happy to.
Thank you.
You had a great trip, I hope.
I was busy. Went to visit my mom. So
Okay, so
Where are you in
family.
Peru?
what?
Where are you in Peru?
En Lima.
Ah, okay. I visited Miraflores and Chosica many times.
Ah,
I have yet been graced with the blessing of Peru, but I would like to go one day.
Oh, the temple in Chosica is really nice.
I know I've heard only great things about Peru, the Peruvian people. So yeah, someday I'll hope to make it there.
And
All
here.
right. All right, folks. Let's begin the Vedic Conservatory. And Mukti is here. Welcome, Mukti. Srijan is here. Welcome, Srijan. And we're going to begin. I'm going to start this evening with we're going to begin our journey through the sixth chapter, which is the Dhyana yoga section of Bhagavad Gita. But before we do that, I want to review just to set the tone for the sixth chapter or the chapter of Dhyana Yoga or meditation, or it's also called Raja Yoga. So Raja Yoga or Dhyana Yoga, the yoga of meditation, is important in and of itself as a yoga system. We have the classic yoga as taught by Patanjali in the Yoga Sutras, which would be considered the classic yoga, Raj Yoga system. And we have Krishna discussing it in the sixth chapter. And what is interesting is Krishna introduces the almost in encapsulation texts 27 and 28 and 29, which we went over last class, but I neglected to mention. We Krishna introduces both Raj Yoga and then what happens after the sixth chapter, Bhakti Yoga. So in these three verses, so I'll read them for you again just to refresh your memory. Um, this is text 27 and 28 and 29 from the fifth chapter to put us in that mood of the Bhagavad Gita where Krishna is speaking. So text 27 and 28 reads as follows: Sparshan kritva bahir bayams chakshusha chaivantare bruvoho panau samau kritva nasa byantara charino yatendriya mano buddhir munir moksha parayanaha vigatecha bhaya krodho ya sada mukta eva saha. So those two verses translate as follow. These are translations by A.C. Bhaktivedanta Swami Srila Prabhupada. Shutting out all external sense objects. And according to Patanjali, in his Ashtanga, the Eightfold System, that's called pratyahara, shutting out. So Krishna says, shutting out all external sense objects, keeping the eyes and vision concentrated between the two eyebrows, suspending the inward and outward breaths within the nostrils, and thus controlling the mind, senses, and intelligence. The transcendentalist, aiming at liberation, becomes free from desire, fear, and anger. One who is always in this state is certainly liberated. So Krishna says, this is how you can, this is one way that Krishna mentions in the Bhagavad Gita, how you can reach liberation, or how you can become free. So this is a very important point that I want to make as soon as I take care of this here. Shut off my phone. There we go. Okay. Krishna gives us in the 4th chapter of Bhagavad Gita, he talks about 4 personality types. Within the scope of humanity, there are 4 natures, let's say. People have their nature. And modern psychologists, they call it personality index, etc. But Krishna, over 5,000 years ago, and probably even before that, in Ayurveda, you have the description of personality types. So when Krishna brings that up, he says, Chatur, the 4, Varnamaya Shrishta, 4 personality types. Those personality types are based on guna, karma, vibhagasaha. They're based on your qualities and your actions. That's how you understand the personality type. Just like if you're a parent, right? And you one of the things that you naturally do as a parent, you observe your children. And you notice that my son is athletic, my son likes to study, my son likes to do this or that. You kind of, by virtue of the qualities they exhibit and by virtue of the how they act, this is an indicator of their personality type. So this is a very important thing to note, because Krishna, making that statement and outlining that for us, the personality types, it's quite logical and natural for Krishna, according to one's personality type, to give them a different path that they can take to achieve the goal of liberation. So what do I mean by that? I mean that if someone is scholarly by nature, then they would be inclined to the path of Jnana Yoga, Sankhya Yoga, and Dhyana Yoga. Those are all under the kind of the banner of Jnana Yoga, or the yoga of knowledge. If someone is more emotive, they are really, they're in tune, in touch, exhibit their emotional qualities in a stable mind, with a stable mind, that is considered more of like the bhakti tradition. So Jnana Yoga, Sankhya Yoga, and Dhyana Yoga, under the banner of Jnana Yoga, are geared towards the type of person that is scholarly by nature. We see this. Krishna deals with the next category of yoga he may deal with in Bhagavad Gita is karma yoga. And karma yoga is for a very active person. So we see Krishna talks about the Brahmins, or the intellectuals, the Kshatriyas, which are the warriors, and certainly they're very active and they have a lot of managerial skills. The Vaishya, which is more of mercantilistic, they're usually into finance, they're into banking, they're into growing crops, and they're kind of considered the belly of society. The Kshatriyas are considered the arms of society, and the Brahmins are considered the head of society. And then the fourth category of personality type that Krishna talks about is the Sudra. And Sudra are those that are service oriented. They're not into being leaders so much unless they're leaders of the particular personality type that they represent. For instance, if you have a person who is a carpenter and he's in the carpenters union, and then you may have the head of the carpenters union who is also a carpenter but may have some skills, some managerial skills or leadership skills or characteristics. So all of these four characteristics or four personality types are what Krishna says is, basically the structure of society. So Brahmins would be the head, Kshatriyas, the warriors, would be the arms, the protection. The belly would be the Vaishyas, um, um, and the mercantilistic class of men, and the Sudras would be the legs of society. So if Krishna is making that statement that this is the structure of humanity or society, then it would be quite natural because within this structure you have purpose. So there's kama, which is desire. There is artha, which is economic development, how you're going to make your living. There is dharma, and dharma means proper action, your duty, your responsibility, proper action, etc. And then with those three, keep in mind you have the four different characteristics. They're the four personality types. And for each one of them, everyone in humanity has a desire for gratification of their senses. Everyone in humanity, no matter what category they're in, figures it out how to earn a living. The Brahmins, they teach. The Kshatriyas, they lead. They're in charge of the people. They may be in charge of a country or a village. And the Vaishyas are in charge of their business and their business endeavors, etc. So within the personality index is purpose of life, and the purpose is gratification of the senses. How you get that gratification by artha or economic development, a code of behavior for each personality type. The Brahmins have certain code of behavior, how they should behave, how they make a living, etc. So there's a code of behavior that's called dharma, obligation, duty, etc. In addition to those three purposes that all four personality indexes have, there is a universal purpose, which is called moksha. And moksha means liberation. Moksha means the recognition that the body is the external feature, the mind is the internal feature, the intelligence is the discriminating power of the mind, and then the ego is how you identify all that, in which way do you identify. But there's a fifth dimension besides physical, mental, intellectual, ego, four externals, more or less external and internal within the scope of the body. You have the fifth dimension, according to the Vedas. Many different sacred texts talk about the fifth dimension, which is the soul. Patanjali talks about it in the Yoga Sutras as Purusha and Prakriti, kind of a hardline dualism. There is material energy, earth, water, fire, air, ether, mind, intelligence, and ego. And then there's the internal, motivational, eternal feature of each living entity, which is the soul. And the soul is described by Krishna very elaborately in the second chapter of the Bhagavad Gita and a section of the Gita, which is called Sankhya Yoga or analysis yoga. By analysis, by the process of analysis, we can understand the distinction between the external self, the internal self, mind, and then the eternal self. So Krishna lays that all out. So it's natural that Krishna would give different types of moksha achieving systems so that you may have an external characteristic or quality or attribute, which may be Brahmin or Kshatriya or Vaishya or Sudra or intellectual, managerial, mercantilistic or service oriented. You may have that. So that external feature will cause you to be attracted when you come to that level, when you evolve to the level where you recognize that there's more to life than just the body and body and mind and the body and mind's demands. When you come to that level, that means you're ready for your to embark on your path of moksha or the path of liberation. So Krishna, of course, knowing everything, he knows this, and therefore this is why he gives the various aspects of which is moksha driven. Yoga is a process or a system or a discipline which affords humanity the opportunity to achieve its highest goal, its ultimate goal. So, according to Bhagavad Gita, the ultimate goal of humanity is to preliminarily understand that it is an eternal entity, not a temporary entity. That's just something that we pass through. It's like renting an apartment. We know that the apartment is not ours. We don't possess it. And, the lease may end and we may move on. So the recognition that this body is temporary and the body will meet with its demise at some particular point in its karma, and therefore to understand who that living entity is that is inhabiting the body and the mind and using the mind, this is the path of moksha. So each path may be separate and distinct in the way it looks at moksha or liberation, in the process that it uses to achieve moksha or liberation. For instance, in Jnana Yoga system, the main purpose is knowledge, to acquire knowledge through the practice of yoga and meditation. But it also incorporates within its path, its process, renunciation of actions that involve one in society. It means it's kind of removes one from society for fear that involvement in society will serve as a distraction to the ultimate goal of liberation. So Jnana Yoga has knowledge as its focus, and particularly the knowledge that comes from the Upanishads. There are Mahavakyas, or different mantras, different Sanskrit verses like Tato Brahma Jignasa, I am Brahman. Tattvamasmi, this is me, this is I am that, and many different Mahavakyas that serve as a meditation for someone in Jnana Yoga, and they do that meditation. So that's why Vishwanath Chakravarti Thakur says that the Jnana Yoga is for all the yoga systems. the use of the meditation process is part of Jnana Yoga. It is part of Karma Yoga. It is part of Sankhya Yoga. It is part of Bhakti Yoga. All the different meditation systems that Krishna outlines in the Bhagavad Gita incorporates within their sadhana meditation. So quite naturally, Krishna talks in the 6th chapter about meditation and the meditational process. And what we just read here, shutting out part of the process of meditation, according to Dhyana Yoga, the Dhyana Yoga process, Krishna is saying, pratyahara, that you don't focus in the senses and sense objects, but you try to draw the senses within. You bring the senses within. So this is an important aspect. Why do that? It's because we do that because we want to cultivate a peaceful mind so that we can have a clear perspective, a clear vision of who we actually are. In chapter 6, it's really not an independent or an ultimate path according to Gaudiya Vaishnavism or Bhakti Yoga, the tradition that I am from, where most of you are following that particular Gaudiya Vaishnavism. What the 6th chapter will do, and outlining what Krishna says here in 27 and 28, is it clarifies the limits of Ashtanga Yoga, the eightfold system that Patanjali talks about and Krishna mentions here in the 6th chapter. It redefines true renunciation and control of mind. So what Krishna is going to start us off on in the 6th chapter is he's going to clarify for us what renunciation actually means according to the Bhagavad Gita and also according to Patanjali. Patanjali is a little bit different take, but it's closely aligned. He's going to describe to us, or to Arjuna, who is in essence every man. He's representing us and the questions that will come up while we're on our moksha path. So what the 6th chapter does, Krishna makes a conscious effort, especially in the beginning of the 6th chapter, is to redefine what true renunciation is, to clarify, because even Arjuna, at this point, he's already heard from Krishna the first 5 chapters. He's already heard, he's already revealed his mind in the 1st chapter. In the 2nd chapter, he seeks guidance, and Krishna gives him the guidance in the form of Sankhya Yoga, or the yoga of analysis, understanding the distinction between matter and spirit. And then Krishna moves on to Karma Yoga, which is the yoga of action, which, most people are active. Most people will not be attracted to renouncing or walking away from all obligations in society, like family and society, being a citizen, being a father or mother. Most people will not do that. Most people are not capable of doing that. And Krishna realizes that. And that's why, Krishna gives that path for those that do have that inclination, but he also gives the path of action, yoga, the yoga of action, karma yoga. And karma yoga is actually a prerequisite, or it comes at the beginning, very beginning stages of what bhakti yoga is, because bhakti is also active. Bhakti is also relational, whereas jnana yoga is non-relational. It's moves away from relationship. It goes to being cloistered and, being separate from responsibilities of society. Bhakti and karma yoga, you're very much a part of society. Bhakti is very much involved, but with a different mindset. The mindset is different, and I'll explain that. And so, the sixth chapter will redefine true renunciation, and every yoga system deals with controlling the mind. Does not matter, because without the mind under the control, one cannot stay on a path of moksha, on a path of liberation. The mind must be under control. Either the mind is either controlled by the senses, or the mind is controlled by intellect. The mind, the senses, which is pulling and tugging and pushing, or wisdom. That's the way the mind goes. So the path of yoga involves wisdom. And not only wisdom, but how to put that wisdom into practice. Wisdom into practice. It's not sentiment. Religion without, Prabhupada said, religion without philosophy is sentiment. Philosophy without religion, and by what we mean religion, is actually the implementation of the philosophy, the path, the yoga path. So, religion without philosophy is sentiment. Philosophy without religion or practice or implementation or experiencing what the philosophy is talking about is called dry speculation, mental speculation. So a complete yoga path will involve both. It'll involve renunciation, but it'll also involve action. There'll be action there, and we'll discuss that too. So the sixth chapter will also prepare the student, one who is on the path, using Gita, Bhagavad Gita as its guideline, his yoga guideline. The sixth chapter will prepare is setting the ground for bhakti. It's giving meditation and the mechanics of meditation, but the mechanics of meditation can be used in bhakti also. When Krishna says, always think of me, Manmana bhava mad bhakto madhyaji mam namaskaru, always think of me, always worship me. So that's a sadhana to do that. And how do you do that? So dhyana, the dhyana yoga aspect, how to control the mind, is very important, even in the implementation of bhakti yoga. So this is what the sixth chapter does. Krishna is gradually internalizing yoga. He's shifting it from the external renunciation and physical discipline that may come in asana and meditation, etc. And he's turning the consciousness within. And then from within, the recognition of who we are within, then to focus it on the divine, the supreme. And in Bhagavad Gita, Krishna identifies that divinity or that supreme as him. So he's saying you can internalize it when you meditate or think of me or connect me in all that you do, all that you eat, all that you offer, all the austerities that you may perform. So it gets to a point where you can renounce things and walk away from things, or learn how to use things properly. There's two problems that we deal with when we are covered by illusion. We're dealing with misidentification and misuse. Misidentification means part of the covering, part of the illusion causes misidentification. We think we're the body and the mind. And misuse, when we think we're the body and the mind, then what we are given, we misuse it. We use it in a way that keeps us in the illusion. That's why Krishna says earlier in the third chapter, you can act either in a way that liberates you, or you can act in a way that binds you to the material world, makes you further and further within the illusion. You get deeper and deeper into the illusion where you can't see your way out. Or you can structure your life, you can discipline your life in such a way that your action actually becomes part of your path for liberation. So, 27 and 28 we read. We said this is Krishna introducing us to Dhyana Yoga. Interesting enough, so what we can say is these three verses, 27, 28, and 29, are kind of like the entirety of the sixth chapter. And here's why. First, we got Dhyana Yoga in 27 and 28, right? You withdraw the senses, focus, everything that he gives us. Remove yourself from external sense object, keeping the vision focused. Krishna says in the sixth chapter, on the tip of the nose, you've seen meditators, eyes half closed, focusing on the tip of the nose. Actually, that means to the front. Tip of the nose is one way to describe be focused on the front. Do not look to the side. Do not look up. Do not look down, because the more directions that you look in, the more distracted that you become. So the purpose in meditation is that you don't become distracted. You become focused. Vyavisat yatmika buddhir, ekeha guru nandana. That you're single-minded. You're single-pointed in your focus in your meditation. So Krishna says here, keeping the eyes and vision concentrated between the two brows. Again, first he uses this point, this chakra point, Agnya chakra. And then in the sixth chapter, he'll say the tip of the nose. But actually in the Sanskrit, it means the front, that we're looking to the front and finding steadiness and stability in my vision by looking to the front and not wandering all over the place. Suspending the inward and outward breaths within the nostrils. That's pranayama. Pranayama, the basic pranayama is you inhale with your left, hold it. Like usually people say 4-8-4. So inhale for 4, hold it for 8, exhale on your right for 4. Then you inhale 4 on your right, hold it. So that hold period, the period between inhalation and exhalation, that is likened by Krishna and Patanjali to the peaceful mind, to the stable mind. That period, it's kind of like when you shift a car. Say you have manual shift, and you're shifting from one gear. When you move into neutral, there's no movement, and then you push it to the next gear, and then there's movement, albeit it may be a brief period of time. So in pranayama, that is meant to calm the mind and to give the experience of stability and peace that in between inhalation and exhalation. So this is all part of the dhyana yoga process that one should understand and incorporate into their sadhana. because it will help. It will help stable the mind, to cause the mind to be stable, to be steady, to be peaceful. And thus controlling the mind, senses, and intelligence, the transcendentalist aiming at liberation. Eventually, it's yoga is a process of purification. At virtue of this purification, one becomes free from desire, fear, and anger. So that's kind of like a synopsis of the 6th chapter. But in the 6th chapter, after Krishna talks about all of this, and we'll go through it, the last verse of the 6th chapter, and he answers Arjuna's question of all these yoga system, is there any one that you would recommend, or anyone that you would consider the topmost, the most complete? And Krishna says, yeah. Yoginam, of all the yoga systems, api sarvesham. So first line, of all the yoga system, bhakti is the most complete. Meditation on Bhagavan, or the Supreme Person, is the most complete, because it truly defines and brings to understanding all of the aspects of Godhead. All of the aspects of Godhead are included within the bhakti system. Whereas in Jnana Yoga, there's negation of anything with form or personality. So there is no understanding of any aspect of divinity that is personal. Ultimately, in Jnana Yoga, they seek Brahman, or the spiritual energy. In Patanjali's yoga system, there is not a focus on Bhagavan or Ishvara. The focus is on the self, almost to the exclusion of Brahman and the Bhagavan feature of divinity. In Bhakti, there is an understanding. What is the divinity within the heart, and the Dhyana Yoga process by which you can meditate on the divinity within the heart, the Brahman feature of divinity, the energy, the spiritual energy feature of divinity, and the understanding of Bhagavan, the Supreme Personality of Godhead. And that is bhakti. Bhakti focuses in on that. And bhakti focuses in on that because that in and of itself is totally purifies the heart and connects the heart with that object of meditation, that personality of Godhead in relationship. So bhakti is relational. Bhakti is not exclusive, it's inclusive, and it's relational. And that is what Krishna, how Krishna ends the Dhyana Yoga chapter. So very interesting just to observe the way Krishna's, the thought process of the Supreme Personality of God is very interesting. In these 3 verses, he's prefacing the whole next chapter. Okay, so let's begin with the next chapter, chapter 6, Dhyana Yoga chapter, and it begins as follows. The Supreme Personality of Godhead said, one who is unattached to the fruits of his work and who works as he is obligated is in the renounced order of life, and he is the true mystic, not he who lights no fire and performs no duty. Very interesting statement on renunciation. Why? Because most people interpret renunciation as giving up. We're giving up this dharma, yajna, sacrifices, charity, all of these aspects of that are involved in a more sattvic society or social order. Here, Krishna is saying He is in the renounced order of life, not one who walks away. True renunciation, according to Krishna in the Bhagavad Gita, is not one who gives up, but one who embraces life with the proper motivation and the proper cultivation of the proper mindset. That's what Krishna is saying here. Not that you have to give up your duties, like, performing sacrifices and what's the other thing he says? And performs no duty, not giving up your duty. What did Arjuna want to do? Arjuna wanted to give up his duty, right? His duty was a Kshatriya. His duty is a warrior. And he wanted to give up his duty. And Krishna is spending all of this time convincing Arjuna that you don't give up your duty, Arjuna. You embrace your duty. The only thing you give up is possessiveness. You give up the understanding that this is mine and it's mine to enjoy. You do everything accordingly, everything the way you're supposed to. True renunciation is freedom from possessiveness. Aham mama, not physical abandonment. Krishna gives an example. He says devotion, direct experience of the Supreme, and detachment from other things. These three occur simultaneously for one who has taken shelter of the Supreme Personality of the Godhead. In the same way that pleasure, nourishment, and relief from hunger come simultaneously and increasingly with each bite for a person engaged in eating. So the core idea here is anasakta. Anasakta means non-attachment. That is really the definition of renunciation. Not giving up something. Freedom from possessiveness. Everything can be done. But the mindset is everything is done in service to the Supreme Lord. Whether it's work, whether it's marriage, whether it's family, whatever aspect of our life what we have can be connected. And when you're able to connect your action to the Supreme, that is considered renunciation, supreme renunciation, the most accurate and beneficial type of renunciation. Why? Because it's natural. It's natural for us to be active. It's natural for us to do all of those things I just mentioned. But what is not natural is that we claim it for ourselves. It's just like you go to a bank and you stand in front of a bank and you say, everything in this bank is mine. It's all mine because I have an account there. But that's not the reality. It's not. So this freedom from possessiveness is what Krishna is telling us. He says, anasakta, non-attachment. Don't be attached to the results of your work. Work, you can work, fine. The results will come from that, fine. But just take those results and offer them back. Like when you go to the Ganges, how do you worship the Ganges? You stand in the Ganges up to your waist, you take a palm full of water, and you offer it back to the Ganges. That's how you worship the Ganges, with Ganges water. So it's a recognition that everything belongs to the Supreme. And that's why I said 29. Krishna said in 27 and 28, the process of dhyana. In 29, what does he say? he gives the bhakti prescription for obtaining peace, which is different from the dhyana prescription for obtaining peace. Control the mind, control the senses, bring the senses within, etc. This is all what Krishna is saying in dhyana yoga. In bhakti, he's giving the peace formula. A person in full consciousness of me, knowing me to be the ultimate beneficiary of all sacrifices and austerities, the supreme lord of all planets and demigods, and the benefactor and well-wisher of all living entities, attains peace from the pangs of material miseries. And just like that verse I quoted previously, that when you perform devotion to the supreme, you get more devotion. You increase in your devotion. You are blessed with a direct experience. Sometimes people will say, if there's a God, why don't I see him or her? Why don't I see them? And very clearly, there is a mechanism, there is a way that you can see. Just like, do you see molecules? No. There's a way that you can see. If you have a strong enough microscope, if you qualify your vision, then you could see molecules. Same thing in yoga. If you want to qualify your vision through the path of jnana, you have to get this knowledge, this wisdom, which is coming from the Upanishads. If you're going to do it through dhyana yoga, then through the process of meditation, which Krishna just outlined for you. Sit in a particular way, neck and back and spine erect, and he gives all of these particulars. It's a mechanistic approach. But what Krishna is saying in bhakti, three things. If you can cultivate three things in your mindset. Number one, freedom from possessiveness can only be understood when you recognize that everything comes from God. God is the origin of everything. When we can accept that. And what does that require? The one thing in bhakti which is very, very important, faith. And how do we get faith? We get faith by associating with those that have faith and those that can enlighten us with the knowledge of the Supreme. Because once we hear, this is why Bhagavad Gita, hearing Bhagavad Gita and Bhagavatam and all these wonderful sacred texts is so important, because we begin to realize our position in relationship to the position of God. And once we hear enough and we're honest, one of the things that comes from hearing properly is an honesty. We begin to realize, yeah, I'm not God. I don't have those qualities. I don't have those abilities. In Bhakti, we recognize we have the qualities of God, just like a drop of water, ocean water, has the qualities of the ocean. But quantitatively, God is infinite and we're finite. But qualitatively, we have the same qualities. Sat, Chit, Ananda, eternity, knowledge, and bliss in finite proportions. And God has them in infinite proportions. So when we understand that, we get faith. And that's really a very valuable commodity in the process of bhakti. Because in order to experience these 3 points, which eventually leads Gatva Mam Shanti, Richtati, eventually leads us to peace. This is the peace formula according to Bhakti. That all that you do, all the sacrifices that you make and perform, they're an offering out of gratitude. They're an offering to God out of gratitude. Number one. First adjustment in the mindset. Number two, Sarvaloka Maheshwaram. Everything comes from God. He's the origin of everything. So that's how I become free from possessiveness. I come into this world naked. I leave this world naked. Everything has been given to me by the blessings of God. So that's it. When we make that adjustment, and if we look at the world and our life within this world, honestly, we can easily acknowledge that fact. And then the third component of the 3-point peace formula, according to Bhakti, is Suridam Sarvabhutanam. Suridam means great heart, good heart, beautiful heart. So Krishna says, I have the beautiful heart of being your ever well-wisher. I am always wishing you well, and I will always be there. I always have your back in life and in death. I am always there. And in recognition of those 3 points, Krishna says, Gyatvam Mam Shantim Richati. So then we did the first, we're talking a little bit about the what real renunciation is. Renunciation, again, to get back to that point, it's non-attachment, according to Krishna in the Gita. It's proper utilization of everything that we have and everything that we use. And it's relationship bound, not mere restraint. It's through our relationship with God that we're able to have these incredible degrees of realization that will lead us on the straight and narrow path. So renunciation, according to the first verse in Bhagavad Gita, is relational. Renunciation is based on his pure representatives. Patanjali deals with it a little different. He says, definition of renunciation from Patanjali is absence of thirst or craving, mastery, control over desire, and objects are abandoned at the level of desire and merely behavior. So we see that Patanjali's perspective is more inhibitory. He inhibits, or we're not to become involved in that way. Whereas Krishna is, you can become involved if you involve yourself in everything in relationship with me. So it's relational. Okay, so let's move on to the second verse here. And the second verse is as follows. What is called renunciation, you should know to be the same as yoga, or linking oneself with the Supreme. O son of Pandu, for one can never become a yogi unless he renounces the desire for sense gratification. So real sannyas, or according to Krishna, is renouncing the desire for enjoyment exclusive of God's participation in that whole formula. God must always be there. And when we're connecting in that way, then we are truly in a position of renunciation. Renunciation of desire, which is free from its connection to God. That's what Krishna is saying here. Look at Arjuna's situation, for instance. Why did Krishna kind of chastise him in the beginning of the second chapter? You know, Arjuna gave he gave 5 good reasons, why he didn't want to fight. But Krishna didn't accept those reasons. Why? Because he said, this is an independent desire. This is your desire to renounce your duty is independent of my desire, Krishna's desire. So therefore, it's speculation. And it's not the dharmic thing to do. It is the adharmic thing to do. In other words, it's not the proper thing to do. It's the improper thing to do. So Krishna is giving him a hard, cold reality. Jiva Goswami, one of our great acharyas, says desire itself is not the enemy. This is the beauty of bhakti. It's not that you become desireless. It's impossible to become desireless. Desire itself is not the enemy. Self-centered desire is. So, that brings clarity to the whole process of trying to become renounced, trying to become free from desire and anger. It's really becoming free from desire. Why? Because desire and either its fulfillment or frustration brings anger. It may not be what it's cracked up to be, just like Madonna once told me that fame, it ain't what it's cracked up to be. When she started her journey in the pop music world, she was driven. She was driven to become a star. And when she became a star, her realization was, fame is not what it's cracked up to be. So it's the same position here. Desire is not the enemy, it's the self-centered desire. Why? Because when you try to fulfill your desire, it really never becomes fulfilled because the attempt to fulfill your desire, self-centered desire, produces other desires. And the chain reaction occurs, one desire after the next desire. And what does Krishna say in the Gita in the second chapter? Dhyayato vishayam pungsa sangasteshu vijayate sangat sanjayate kama krodha vijayate. That when one contemplates the objects of the senses to enjoy them, one becomes attached. In other words, it becomes self-centered. And from that self-centeredness and that attachment which ensues, there is intense desire for me to enjoy it. But that enjoyment, that intense desire to enjoy doesn't satisfy. It just keeps the whole chain reaction alive, hot, with more and more desires. You get the car that you always wanted, and then a few years later, another car comes on the market that really catches your fancy. Or a house, you've got a house, and then, there's a neighborhood that catches your fancy, or the necessity to have a bigger house, or to have a house with better landscaping, or a brick house, or so many reasons may come. So it keeps the chain reaction. And Krishna says from that, the chain reaction of desires that we get caught up in, self-centered desires, is anger and frustration. And from that anger, kama krodha vijayate. Krodha bhavati sangmoha. From that anger, we kind of lose our perspective about life and its purpose. We kind of get lost in that chain reaction and intensity of chain reaction desire. We get lost in that. And then we use the valuable commodity of the human form of life and intelligence. We misuse it. We use it to calculate and construct a way that we can just perpetuate the chain reaction of desires. And that's the way our intelligence is used, rather than that wisdom being utilized in such a way that we understand the purpose of human form of life and to choose the path that will move us towards the purpose of moksha, the purpose of liberation, which can be achieved in the human form of life. With the blessing of the intelligence that we're given in the human form of life, we can then start to see with that kind of clarity, as opposed to what Krishna said in that verse I just quoted. We lose that clarity of perspective and we get lost within the whole chain reaction of desires, self-centered desires. And eventually we lose our intelligence and we fall prey to the influence of Maya or illusion. We become deluded. So desire itself is not the enemy. A bhakta, person in bhakti, retains desire, but learns due to the process of sadhana that we follow, the chanting, the hearing and the chanting and the association and the study of sacred texts and the visits to holy places and the various rituals within the scope of bhakti, it helps the mind, number one, to become purified, and how we stay on that, in that purpose, on that path. We don't get distracted from that path. Verse 3 reads, for one who is a neophyte in the Eightfold Yoga system, work is said to be the means. And for one who is already elevated in yoga, cessation of material activities is said to be the means. So what does that mean? According to Bhakti, even in the initial stage of Bhakti, excuse me, that there is active engagement. When you first start on your path of Bhakti, there's active engagement. You chant, you do kirtan, you chant japa. Then what do? You learn how to take the food that you've been blessed with, the grains, the fruits, the vegetables, all of these wonderful, beautiful things that we put into a meal. We cultivate the consciousness of gratitude. So that becomes an act of sacrifice. That before we eat, we first offer in gratitude with select and special prayer and meditation. So even that action, that active engagement becomes a purificatory action. And what this does, when we're engaging ourselves in actions of purification through the system and the guidance and the direction of the Bhakti Yoga, then what does that mean? It brings an internal equilibrium, sama. Krishna, first definition of yoga in the second chapter of Bhagavad Gita, samatvam. That means an equilibrium, a steadiness, equipoised, stable. All of these become part of the mindset, that peacefulness that people are looking for. So in the beginning stages, there's a preparatory stage, and then there is a active preparatory, and then active. It means that we just learn the things that I just talked about. When we chant to please God. Not to become a rock star, but to please God. Kirtan becomes our offering. And when we share kirtan with others, we're sharing our offering and that spirit of offering with those that are with us encouraging them to participate in this offering mindset, this offering mentality. And then we use whatever we have, whatever talent we have, ability we have, we use that as part of the offering. If we're blessed with musical talent, we use that musical talent in such a way that it becomes part of our offering. And Krishna, he doesn't want the talents per se. If that's there, that's wonderful. But he wants the heart. So even, sometimes people are a little bit inhibited to participate in kirtan because maybe they can't sing on key, or, maybe they're not so rhythmic. So they're a little inhibited. And, the people who are musical, they're always in the forefront, and they feel a little intimidated by that. But that's not the cultivation mindset that we're trying for. We're trying for, I'm doing it to please you. If I happen to be blessed with the karma of being a good musician, then let me use that blessing as part of my offering to you, dear Lord. If I am not blessed with that ability, well, there will be the endeavor. And that endeavor, I'll offer you with a pure and simple heart. And even though I may not be so rhythmic, or I may not be so musical, the heart is opening up and making that endeavor. And Krishna sees that. My teacher, A.C. Bhaktivedanta Swami Prabhupada, his teacher was Srila Bhaktisiddhanta Saraswati Thakur. And Bhaktisiddhanta tells that or Prabhupada tells that when Bhaktisiddhanta, Prabhupada's guru, wanted to hear kirtan, he would ask this one devotee, Sridhar Swami, to sing kirtan. And Sridhar Swami was not known for having the best voice or being the most musical, because Srila Bhaktisiddhanta Saraswati Thakur wanted to make the point that Krishna really accepts the offering mindset. That's the sweetness in the offering. That mindset of, that humility. Sometimes when we're very talented, we kind of lose a little bit of our humility and become proud of our talent. And there are those who are very talented and still very humble. But that humility and that pure and simple expression is what catches Krishna's attention. So this is an important thing to note. Okay. Text 4. A person is said to be elevated in yoga when, having renounced all material desires, he neither acts for sense gratification nor engages in fruitive activities. So this is reiterating the point of non-attachment, not inactivity. Oh my God, it's 8:10 already? Jeez, sorry folks, I got lost. So we'll pick up on 5, but the essence of the particular verse is non-attachment, not inactivity. I apologize for going over 10 minutes. If anyone would like to share realization, the takeaway point that they got from this class, ask a question, please feel free to do so now. Shri, who am I? Oh, I didn't. I thought I saw somebody raise their hand. Anyone have anything they would like to share, or any takeaway point, or observation, or question?
Hare Krishna, bro.
Is that Prem
Yeah,
Marnava?
yeah.
Haribo.
It's so dark. Hare Krishna. Yeah, I was thinking how all these patience that Krishna has to guide the the conditioned soul who is full of desires, and he has to break down all these speculations first, and what's it called, that yoga Patanjali sutras and impersonal philosophies and stuff. Because we otherwise we don't believe, like, if it's too simple, we kind of like don't have the faith. So kind of like you give this analysis, and I was thinking like so much like a father teaching the little child step by step, and I thought that was pretty cool. A lot of patience the Lord,
Yeah,
has.
no, that's a very good point. Um, we are not into blind following. Prabhupada says that in the fourth chapter of Bhagavad Gita, his purport to the 34th verse, when Krishna says, Tadvidi pradipatena paripashnena sevaya upadekshanti te jnanam jnaninas tattvadarshana. Find the tattvadarshini, find the seer of the truth. And when you find the seer of the truth, serve that person and be submissive. And Prabhupada points out in that commentary to the verse, he says, Krishna is not looking for blind followers. And that is why he's giving so much wisdom so that we can be guided. It's a slippery slope, spiritual life is, because sometimes people misidentify what is spiritual when it may only be intellectual,
Mm,
or it may be mental, because mental is subtle, intellectual is even more subtle, ego is even subtler than that. When we talk about the various elements, the senses and the body are the gross elements, but mind is subtle. It's a subtle element, subtle, more subtle than the gross elements. And intellect is even more subtle than the mind. That's why intellect can control the mind,
mm,
because it's subtle and powerful. And ego is even more subtle than that, the identification. So when ego rules, then it has a tendency to misidentify, thinking that it's the elements rather than the eternal spiritual entity. So a person can get into a particular path that is very pleasing, from the mental perspective or from the intellectual perspective. But if it's not leading one on the path of moksha to become free from the desire to be involved in this material world, then it's still um, it's still bonding us to this
mm.
material world. Yeah,
Thank you, bro.
thank you. Anyone else would like to make a comment or statement,
So
observation?
I'm just going to say that I'm going to lead the next kirtan.
All right. You go, girl. You do that kirtan. Just just lay your heart bare.
Okay.
Victor is always a great support in kirtan. No matter what melody you come up with, or Victor is right there. So you just tell Victor, I'm going to bare my heart in kirtan, Victor. Just give me some support here. And Victor will do it. He can do it with any kirtan singer. Even me. So that's an achievement,
Mm.
because I'm always changing. I led kirtan, Srijan, who's here. Srijan plays bass. So we were doing kirtan on Saturday night, and I led this melody. And after I finished, he said, you changed the melody a little bit. I said, yeah, yeah, I did. Fortunately, they got it. So, yeah, it's the duty of those who know to guide and support those that don't know so much. So don't worry, Angelica, you're in good hands. Victor is there.
Your ears.
Yeah. Yeah.
It's funny because
Anybody else?
I was thinking the same thing when you were talking about, like singing the kirtan with your heart. I it's what happens to me. Like I'd like to, but I'm kind of embarrassed. I can't really sing. And then I thought the same as Angelica, like, oh, okay, I'll do it then.
Yeah, I mean it's amazing. I've heard I've been practicing bhakti since 72. So in those 54 years, I've seen a lot of people in the kirtan process, and I've seen people based on really sincere desire, maybe start off really rough, not so melodic or not on key or whatever, but just because it's their offering. I'm going to make an offering to the Supreme, and I'm going to do it from the very core of my heart. Just based on that, then the ability comes. Krishna says, and there's a very wonderful verse in the 10th chapter of the Gita. He says, Tesham satatam yuktanam, bhajatam priti purvakam, tadami buddhi yogam tam yena mam upayanti te. That just by your giving me your heart through love and devotion, I give you the understanding by which you come to me and please me. In other words, that ability will come to you from the supersoul within your heart, and you'll begin to flourish just because this is your offering. This is what you want to do. And the best way to do that, to develop the confidence, is when other people are leading kirtan, you cultivate your listening power. You listen to the melody and you feel the rhythm. You just feel that rhythm. Hare Krishna, Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Rama, Hare Rama, Rama Rama, Hare Hare. Rhythm and melody are um, the the support or the beautifiers of the gem. Of if the mantra is the ruby or the sapphire or the diamond, when you take that ruby, sapphire, diamond and you put it in a beautiful setting, it beautifies the gem even more, even though the gem in and of itself is absolutely beautiful. But when you put it in a gold or white gold or platinum setting, it beautifies the gem even more. So when we have rhythm and we keep the rhythm, so you don't have to be a famous drummer or a fancy drummer. You just have to feel the rhythm when that accent is there. And then melody is just a matter of hearing and repeating what you've heard. It's like you're the echo, only with a heart. You're the echo with emotions, right? And especially if someone is singing with emotion and you're hearing, then that emotion will come out from your heart also. That if you hear properly, the emotion that is there within that melody, within that presentation. You will hear that, you will feel that, and you will express that. So you never have to be shy. And there's so many opportunities. Whenever you're in a kirtan, there may be 4 or 5 people ahead of you. That gives you an opportunity just to practice your hearing, practice your rhythm. And then, if you've worked up the confidence to do it, then you're ready to go. If not, then maybe next time. Doesn't matter.
Hare Krishna. Thank you.
You're welcome. Anybody else want to share anything? Any takeaways from what was said? What's the different? Who is brave enough to say what Krishna is saying is real renunciation? How about you, Sri Hari? What do you think Krishna is telling us is real renunciation? Is getting out of your house, giving up your house and your forerunner vehicle, renouncing all those. That's renunciation. Is that renunciation according to Krishna?
Not necessarily.
Okay.
It's,
So,
I mean, it might be helpful, but it's really not renunciation. It happens from when you let go of self-centered desires, and when you do that, then it becomes much easier to live your life.
yeah.
And that's my answer to your question.
And that's a very good answer. Thank you. And that's why Krishna says 3 simple things for the peace formula. 3 simple things. I'm the recipient of your offerings of sacrifice. I am I own everything. Everything comes from me. And I'm your best friend. When we can accept that, peace comes. The pressure's off. Takes the pressure off your shoulders. You look at people who work all their lives, their whole lives, trying to establish themselves as the supreme. We have right now, we're experiencing that with our president. He's worked his whole life to establish himself as the supreme authority. And imagine the anxiety that comes from that pressure that comes. But if we are a leader that recognizes God is supreme, God is the source of my intelligence, God is the source of my knowledge, God is the source of my inspiration, God is the source of clarity of perspective, it takes the burden off of us being the source. We're not the source. So
just so I understand, we're not talking about passivism.
no, because Arjuna was talking about passivism, wasn't he?
Yes.
Yeah, and Krishna said, absolutely not. Your responsibility is to protect, and you protect by your martial arts. So you who have been trained, Arjuna, you who is the foremost of archers, you who have never lost a battle, you who have never ever given up protecting those in need of protection. You've never given that up. Why are you giving it up now? You're giving it up because of illusion. You've fallen under the spell of illusion. You may have so many reasons, and they sound pretty good, but really, Your real duty, your real obligation is not to yourself, it's to me, to God. Is that this is my way of serving. So that's why we can be in any station of life, doing any occupation within reason. I wouldn't say you can be a butcher and offer that to God, but I would say you can be in the military, you can be in finance, you can be an educator, you can be, you know, a plumber, a carpenter, an electrician. You can be any one of those things, and that can be your offering, your gentle, wonderful, beautiful offering to the Supreme. So no, it doesn't mean to be passive.
So, what I was wondering is how, in Krishna consciousness, how does one respond to, what's going on with Trump?
That's a whole conversation. If I put it online, I'll probably find ICE banging down my door. But there is a nice verse in Bhagavad Gita. I think the way you can approach that question is, how does Krishna see a leader? What is leadership according to God's perspective? And then we can measure the merit of leadership based on that, and not on relative measures, temporary measures. So I was thinking, actually, in my mind, I was thinking to write a little article, a little essay on leadership according to yoga, the yoga of leadership. And hopefully I'll get to it. Okay, folks, thank you so much for being with me this evening, giving me your wonderful association. I appreciate it greatly. I hope you have a happy, healthy, and holy week. Till next week, Tuesday, same time, same station. Or if you're coming over to my house this Thursday, Victor, you're coming? All right. Angelica, you coming?
Oh, this Thursday.
Yeah. It's going to be at my house.
Oh, great.
Yeah. So please come.
I was in New Vrindavan for the weekend, by the way.
Oh, wow.
Yeah, West Virginia.
Yes, I know New Vrindavan very well. Wonderful place.
It is amazing, Palace of Gold.
Yeah. So those of you that are in the area, come join Victor and myself. And I think Srijan and his wife said that they were going to come. They are both wonderful musicians. They'll come. And I think Nitai Gore said he will try to come. I don't know about Thomas and some of the others, wonderful musicians that come. But if you're around in my area, 7:00, my house, and love to see you there. So until either Thursday, or if not Thursday, next Tuesday, you have a happy, healthy, and holy week. Hare
Hare
Krishna.
Krishna.
Hare
Thank you very
Krishna.
much.
Hare Krishna.
Hare
Bye.
Krishna, everyone.